Hello, my fellow fishermen and fisherwomen. This is MDawg, and it is that time again. We are going to start a new leveling series. It has been quite a while, and I'm always amazed after, 6 months or so since I've done the last leveling series, how many new players we have. Every week, month, it feels like there's new players coming into RF4. And it's my hope that this will somehow be helpful. At this point, I don't know how long we'll do this. It was my hope at one time with Yama River, the high-level newest body of water that came out in RF4. It was my hope that if fly fishing came with that my next leveling guide would be able to include fly fishing in whatever capacity it was possible to include fly fishing. Well, Yama's out now. And though fly fishing could still be coming, we don't know for sure, it's not here now, and I didn't want to wait any longer. We'll see how long we go with this. I hope to at least be able to introduce you to the basics nice and slowly, and check out some fishing spots, especially at Mosquito and Winding Rivulet. New Winding Rivulet, by the way. I have yet to fish at New Winding Rivulet. And yeah, just kind of get familiar with the basics. So actually, before we jump in, let's first just self-promote. You know about my YouTube channel because you're watching this on YouTube, I presume. Thanks for the support on YouTube. If you don't know, I also stream on Twitch. Currently, my fairly regular schedule is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday evenings. Starting in the evening, just varies on time. Sometimes I start late afternoon, sometimes a little bit later in the evening, 8:30 Eastern. I live on the East Coast on the United States, if that gives you an idea. The Twitch channel is MDawg Gaming. If you have questions, you want to come by and say hello, please feel free to do so. Okay, let's get me and all of this out of the way. And let's jump right into RF4. So if you are new to the game, this is a fishing simulation. In my opinion, of all the fishing games on the market, this is the closest to being a true simulation of fishing in a digital format, right? I'm drinking coffee, so there will be some pauses. I'm going to take you through this tutorial. The tutorial goes over the basics, as in what keys you need to use to actually move around and do things. Some of the more complicated things I will mention specifically, but right now they're just showing us how to move around and also turn our flashlight on and off, because the tutorial doesn't know if you're starting in the daytime or the nighttime. So you come out to this dock, and we want to go ahead and pick up this rig here. So the first technical thing here is setting the depth. If you're new to fishing, or if you don't fish in real life, you can change the depth, especially with float fishing. How far away your float or bobber is from your, in this case, worm or hook. And we're using number up, number plus, and number down to change that. The longer you hold the left mouse button, the farther you will cast. Okay? So that's all we're doing here. Learning how to cast, learning how to catch a fish. Z will let you zoom in. We're already getting a nibble here. And I will tell you, one of the harder things to do in this game is float fish, especially for some of the fish that we'll be catching early on, because they like to nibble. And so figuring out when it's a nibble versus when it's actually a bite and it's time for you to pull that hook up and pull your rig out of the water can be quite difficult. That is a heck of a Crucian Carp to be our first catch. Notice here that we are leveling up float fishing. Right now there are 3. I'm holding up 3 fingers. You can't see it because I'm gone now, but 3 types of fishing in the game. General categories of float fishing, spin fishing, and typically my favorite, feeder or bottom fishing. Well, we have leveled up our float fishing. Okay, so I'm going to push backspace, put the rod back in the water, get some spare tackle for float. So if we go up to the house, which is right here, we can get our spare float tackle. You can do this once every 24 hours in game, which is 1 hour in real life. Finally, they want us to travel to Mosquito, so hit escape, click on the map, the cottage pond, and click on Mosquito. We are now moving maps. You'll notice that Winding, Mosquito, Cottage Pond, they're all free to travel. And Mosquito and Winding also have a free eating station. So you do have to keep your, well, you have a hunger meter. Whether or not you have to keep it full is up to you, but you can eat for free once a day at Mosquito or Winding. They share the same cooldown. Okay, so they want us to go to the fish market and sell our fish, which is right here. We're going to get 1.24 silver, which is going to give us a total of 51.24 silver. Finally, they want us to go to the tackle store and buy maggots. So if you click on baits, this is everything that's for sale. Oh, roe is for sale. That's interesting. Roe is one of the few baits, and by the way, at least currently it's not a very good bait, but it's one of the few baits that you can't purchase for in-game currency. So this is a free-to-play game. Almost everything is doable, catchable, harvestable, craftable, whatever, without you spending real money. There are two exceptions to that in terms of baits, and that would be the roe that we just saw, as well as crab meat. Currently, these two baits, I hope that we will be able to harvest these two baits in the future. We are still currently technically in early access. But right now, if you want these baits, you got to spend real money, which means converting real money to gold. So everything, or most things, can be bought with either silver or gold. We're supposed to get maggots here, I'm forgetting. So we're spending 2.4 silver on maggots, which is a good early level bait. Close the store window. And now we're going to craft some bread. We hit in, we click on wet bread, and we use one of the loaves of bread we have in our inventory to make some bread. So now you can use that bread you just made as a bait as well. So now you see we're leveling up harvesting baits. Okay. To continue the tutorial, we need to go to Winding, which I do want to do, but let me first just bring up the skill menu. I've been talking about how you're leveling up float fishing, spin fishing, bottom fishing. We just saw that we're leveling up harvesting baits. You can also level up cooking, ground bait, and lures. I want to say that other than lures, you should really be working on all these from a very early level. The reason why you want to work on cooking, and I'm just going to give you sort of a broad view here. The reason why you want to work on cooking is because things like tea and coffee, and cocoa to a lesser degree, very much help. Tea helps you get your comfort back if it's raining. It also gives you small amounts of energy. Coffee gives you larger amounts of energy. And the reason why you want energy is because you want to be able to level up your harvesting baits. And you see the picture here on the front of harvesting baits looks like a shovel. One of the early things that we will do is purchase a shovel, and we'll be digging. We'll be getting worms, red worms. Eventually we'll be getting night crawlers and other cool stuff from digging in the dirt. And each time we dig, we have a chance to level up our harvesting baits. Why is this important? Not just because of the baits you're gathering, but because you need to be able to make these baits, especially down to garlic dough. From as early a level as possible, you want to be able to make, you could argue pea porridge as well. Cottage cheese is important, but especially garlic dough. And the reason why I say that is because there are many fish, carp-like species, smaller carp-like species, like the Crucian Gibels of this world, the bream, that are going to prefer some of these baits. So if you can't make them, then you won't be able to use them. You can't purchase most of these baits in the store, the tackle shop. So it's important to level up harvesting baits. So that's why you're cooking, to get the energy so that you can keep digging to get the baits leveled up. Making lures, if you are 100% dedicated to spin fishing, you might decide to level up making lures at a mid-level range. But I don't think anyone should do it early. I mean, you could argue that like up to foam rubber fish, you could level to there pretty inexpensively, but this is a very expensive thing to level up. Even if you're using like a really efficient method, it's still thousands of silver. But everything else, you want to be leveling pretty aggressively. The one thing I haven't mentioned is ground bait. If you're going to be doing bottom feeder fishing, which we will get into soon, you want to level up ground bait. Now, there's also skill points to put in, and I'm not talking about that right now. We're going to wait till we have a few skill points, and I'll show you where I'm putting skill points in. I'm just talking about doing these things to level them up. How do you level them up? By doing them. So you level up making ground bait by making ground bait. And we'll look at that shortly. You level up cooking by cooking. You level up harvesting baits by gathering baits or making baits. And then you level up the different types of fishing by doing those types of fishing. So we are getting a little hungry, so let's check out the free food stand down here. I love fishing at Mosquito, even new Mosquito, because we get a chance to do bottom fishing. I will tell you, I'm in a little bit of a spin fishing mood because Yama came out, and man, I have re-fallen in love with spin fishing. I used to do it years ago at Volkov, and a lot, and Yama has kind of gotten me back into it. So we may do a little more spin fishing than usual in this leveling guide, but we'll still do a lot of bottom fishing and just a wee bit of float fishing, I would imagine. I'd like to go ahead and get the tutorial finished, especially while it's still daytime. So we're now going to travel for free to Winding Rivulet, and it's going to say, hey, do you want to finish the tutorial? And we're going to say yes. Let's do it. Yes, let's start the tutorial. Okay, approach the river to the left of the wooden bridge. So there's the wooden bridge. I'm assuming this is left of the wooden bridge. We've got a nice little place we can stand. Right hither. Okay. The Corona S60L. We want to click pick up. But let me just talk a little bit about rigs here. We'll look at different rigs. This is a spinning rig, obviously. Spin fishing, you have some specific things you need to keep in mind. If I click on this eye here, we're going to get a bunch of statistics about the rod that we're using. And if we click on this little informational panel here, we'll get a bunch of information about the reel that we're using. Because this is spin fishing, you don't have to worry about the test rating of the reel. But do, even from the beginning, notice the test of the rod. What this means is anything below the line, which in this case is only the lure, has to have a total weight between 2 and 10 grams. Well, this little furry TO1 weighs 2.5 grams, so that works. It's more than 2. So we can cast this appropriately. If it was less than 2, it would be hard to cast it very far. If it was more than 10, we would be doing damage to our setup by using that lure. Okay? Just wanted to give you that information. The other thing to always be thinking about is how strong is my gear and do I have my gear set up right. Hopefully I will repeat this multiple times during this, because if one of the things I see new players doing incorrectly, sometimes just for fun, they will get free gear from the cottage house and just break stuff on purpose, or cheap gear and just break it on purpose. But sometimes people do it because they just don't understand. The proper way to set up a rig, which this whole thing together is going to be a rig, the proper way to set up your fishing rig is to have the rod be the strongest part. Okay? So this really isn't set up properly. This reel is stronger than the rod. That's not okay. This line should be right at or just under the max drag of the reel. So again, a little iffy because it's 0.1 more, but that's close enough. Your leader or your line should always be the weakest part of your rig, so that if you hook into a big fish that you can't handle and something's going to break, you want it to be this that breaks, or this that breaks. You might lose a lure, but it's better than breaking a rod or breaking a reel. So just keep that in mind. Let's pick it up and let's go. All right, adjust the brake to 25. We're doing that with the mouse wheel. And we want to set the retrieval speed to 10, which is a little slow, but we'll take their word for it. And now cast it by holding down the left mouse button. You can also hold shift and the left mouse button and just do a max cast like that. Did that go in the circle? Yes. All right. And now we can start the retrieval. Oh. Oh. We had a fish, but it got off. Oh, we have another fish. Okay. We caught our first perch. Okay. So we will keep this little perch because every 0.1 silver counts at this level. We leveled up our spin fishing. We got some XP. We will keep it. Okay, that is the end of the tutorial. Again, hit F1 to see all the different commands you can do. I want to cast again. I always like to do this in a leveling guide because you automatically catch a fish during the tutorial. But if you repeat the same thing, oftentimes you will not catch a fish on the next cast. Not that this is a bad place to fish, but I think that this lure is just not very good. And so, yeah, we caught a fish with the lure during the tutorial, but it would be hard to catch it with another one. Let's see if we have any other lures to start off with. Oh, we do. Okay. Let's use the dragonfly. Let's get a little more serious here. Let's do a 18 retrieval speed, and let's see if we can catch a second fish. This is called a spinnerbait. All of these lures we're using right now are spinnerbaits. Spinnerbaits in general, the best thing to do is just do a constant retrieval. If you hold down shift, you'll get the speed up notification in the bottom left. And sometimes that speed up notification can attract a fish. But you know, even if you don't do speed up and just do constant retrieval, pretty good chance you will eventually get a fish, or you'll change lures and find one that actually does get a fish. It is the middle of the day. It's not the best time to be spin fishing right here, but I thought we'd just give it a couple of casts and see if we can't figure something out. Get a little speed up, let off the speed up. Yep, there we go. There we go. Is this a marker perch? Nope. So we were able to catch another perch here. Very nice. We're already up to 0.4 spin fishing. Okay, let's try the Dragon Bell 2. A little different shape. Got a longest cast. Let's see if we can catch anything with this. By the way, I should say this. A lot of the times that I'll be recording these leveling videos are times that I am potentially able to get called out for work. So some of these leveling guide videos will be an hour or more long. Some of them may be much shorter if I get called out and kind of have to wrap it up. One deal that I will make with you though is if we ever get a short video like 15 minutes or less, I'll just keep that ad-free, make it as painless as possible for you to watch since it is a much shorter video. Let's try one more lure before we move on. And again, early on, or any time when you're playing this game, I would encourage you to do this. Don't get too focused on, oh, I've got to make so much silver per hour, per minute, whatever. I've got to get so much XP per minute. Allow yourself to just explore. Just try different lures, try different baits, try different spots. There will be plenty of information coming to you once you get plugged into the community about good spots to try. And you can go get on the really efficient spots and make your silver, make your XP. But remember, this is a game about exploring. You will find things yourself. You will have a lot of fun doing so. So I always encourage people to do that as well. Okay, let's go ahead and disassemble this. If you hit disassemble, it takes everything off your rig. And let's look at our inventory real quick. What all do we have in our inventory? So we start off with a bamboo rod, which is a float fish, a telestick, which is what we use to float fish in the tutorial, and a spinning rod. So nothing has changed there. We have the Spark 2000, which is the reel that we were using on our spinning rod. We have some decent line, some cheap line. We have some cheap hooks and a really cheap hook. We've got four lures. We've got the maggots we bought, the bread we made, a few worms still. We've got a second decent float and a cheap float. We've got some weights. We've got a little bit of food, a map of the cottage pond, and a landing net. Guess what, folks? That saves you 30 extra silver and the embarrassment of not being able to catch a fish from the start. So in the past, they have not given us landing nets. I'm going to try a spot while we're here real quick. And while we're trying the spot, I'll show you how you use a landing net. Oh, they made a little dock for it. Oh, this is great. This is actually kind of cool. Ooh, that went really close to me. Let's do a little farther than that. It's a little bleak spot sometimes. I might get stuck on the dock. This dock didn't used to be here. It's now here because of winding. See if we get any bites here. Sometimes the little bleak and stuff will be biting here on float. Sometimes chub will also ruin your day, but let's just see if anything nibbles. Looks like they might not be active here right now. One thing that's cool is you can see the fish in spots like this down below it. Cast it a little farther out this time. Oh, there we go. Oh. One thing I like about bleak fishing is the bleak don't nibble as much as some of the other low-level fish. You can already see a fish on it. You see that? That does not look like a bleak, though, I don't think. It looks like a little... Is that a little Crucian? Okay, it's on there. All right, let's say... It might not be a Crucian. Oh, crap. Okay. I was trying to show you how to use the net. It's too light. I couldn't get it to sink back down. So we actually got a lot of XP and leveled up our float fishing some more. So we'll keep that. Can I pull out the net? Let's see. If I have the thing in the... Yep, there we go. So you just hit spacebar to pull out the net. And if you have a fish on and you hit spacebar, the net will automatically try to get to where the fish is. So as long as it's close enough... That looked like kind of a big chub or something. It might be good we didn't catch that. So as long as it's close enough, that wasn't even a marker dace and it leveled us up to 2. That's crazy. As long as it's close enough, that net will go out and grab that fish. So remember, just space bar for your net. If the fish is too big to get out of the water, sometimes the net will save the day for you. Okie dokie. Cafe. Always check the cafe on every map except for Bear and the cottage pond. There's a cafe, and the cafe will pay you a lot more silver for your fish than just selling it at the fish market. So we're only getting 0.14 silver, almost nothing. But the reason is none of these were big enough to be considered marker fish. Once they're a certain size, then they have what's, basically value at that point. All right, I mentioned community resources. One that I want to highlight here is my own personal in-game chat. If you would like to join myself and a bunch of other people who are sometimes helpful, hit Q on your keyboard, click on this cogwheel, select a channel, and type MY_DAWGS. MDawg's right there. 534 players currently in that chat channel. Click join, and now you will see all of the messages from MDawg's. So again, if I'm in the game, if I'm fishing, you'll see me in there. There's also a lot of other people in there. Say hey, let people know you're new. Folks are generally very helpful. You'll see conversations happening where people are talking about spots to fish at. Just so you know, it's considered bad manners to beg for stuff. So, I wouldn't just come in and start asking people to give you free stuff. That's a good way to get blocked by the community. But let people know you're new and that any advice is welcome. If you have specific questions that come up, feel free to ask. Again, not everyone, but a lot of people will be helpful in there. And then there's other resources as well. There is websites like rf4spots.com. There's a site that we all refer to as the VK site. There's 3 or 4 sites that people often will use to look up hotspots in the game. I will try to remember to put a link to some of those in this video. If I don't remember to, feel free to leave a message on the video and I'll try to come back and add them. Discord is another good place to go. You can get the invite to the RF4 Discord from their main website at rf4game.com. I think on the forums there it's listed. If you would like to go into my Discord, where a lot of helpful spots are mentioned by the folks in there, you can come by my Twitch channel and type !Discord in Twitch. Okay, so here we are, level 2. What do we do next? Well, the good news is we have 48.98 silver. I want to travel back to Mosquito. Uh-oh. Give me 1 second here. Okay, that was weird. We got an error and then it solved itself. I've not ever seen that before. All right, what I want to do here is let's check out the cafe here just to know what's in it. We've got a Crucian order that should be doable. Chinese sleeper order that may be doable. Gibel. Bleak are a little easier on winding. Sometimes they are active here at Mosquito, but not always. It's a really nice rough order. Gibel Carp are also doable here. So 2 rough orders, by the way. Once we get a little bit higher level and we get 3 feeder rods going, targeting these rough orders is going to be huge for silver. I mean, if you did these 2 together, that's almost 90 silver. At this level, that's insane. All right. So I think what we want to do is, as I've said, I tend to want to do feeder fishing first. Try to get a system of having 3 feeder rods so that if there's a spot that I want to feeder fish, I have that option to do it with all 3 rods. Now, I might decide to just do 2 so that I can do a little spin fishing on the side or a little float fishing on the side. But in general, I like to do feeder fishing as a way to make silver to do whatever else I want to do. There is a spot I want to try for eyed. And I think, even though pea porridge might be best, I think wheat seeds might work. But we don't even have the equipment yet, so we're going to purchase equipment first. So you go to feeder rods, and eventually what you want is to get 2 or 3 of these feeder fishing start kits. But that's 149 silver. We're not there yet. So let's look at the very basic here, the Sorrento. Yeah, technically it'd be better to go with the 3rd one. The load capacity is the same. What is nice is that these are a little longer, so you cast them a little farther. However, at this level, you're not going to be using these that long. So I'm going to go with the cheapest just to save a little bit of money. Ideally, we want to put sparks on there. Again, to save money, you could go with the 2000. We already have a 2000, so I'm actually not going to get a reel, at least not right now. We may already have line for it, so we'll set it up in a second here. But we definitely are going to need a feeder. And you could just get a sinker, but I'm going to get a feeder just right from the start. By the way, let's look at the test on that feeder rod, because that'll tell us what size cage we want. So the test is anywhere from 20 to 100 grams. So when we look at the feeder we're going to purchase, I'd go 30 grams. You could go 60. You're not going to ever have more than 40 grams in addition to the 60, but I think 30 is fine to start out with. Saves us 0.05 silver. We're going to get one of those. Is there anything else we need? We probably need better hooks, but let's just get this rig set up as much as we can. All right, so here's our new feeder rod, right? We're going to put this reel on there. This has 3 max drag, so this 3.1 line is fine. Oh, we need bite indicators. This is where the cage goes. We're not going to be using a leader. And I guess we'll just start off using a 16 hook. And I don't know. We'll probably fish with bread first, but we'll see. So we need a bite alarm. The cheapest bite alarm is going to be a bell. So you're going to be getting bells until you have enough silver to get the more expensive ones. But there's no advantage to the other ones. It's just maybe they sound better. The blinkers don't have any noise at all, which is nice. But for now, this is what we're using. So we can put the bite indicator on there, and this is pretty much ready to go now. I think you can now actually use leaders on bottom rigs from the start. So let's look at, do we want to get leaders or do we want to make ground bait? Feeder leaders. Oh, you have to be level 8 to use those. I'm not sure there's a point in putting a leader on if it's the same material as the line we're using. At least not enough of a point to justify it. So we're going to wait. Once we hit level 8, then we'll start using fluorocarbon. It's more invisible to the fish. So for ground bait, I told you about making ground bait. We need to level that up. So what we want to do is the Crucian Gibel ground bait mix. So we want crackers, millet porridge, and sunflower oil. Okay. So crackers, let's get, I think we can afford to make 2 stacks here. 2 of those, millet porridge, 2 of those. And then for the attractant, the sunflower oil will make 5 mixes per bottle. So we just need 1 of those. We still have 2.48. Let's see if, I think the most important thing to get early in terms of hooks is smallest available. Now these are out of stock. You also have to be level 8, but you could get 22s. The smallest level, let's see, the level 24 hook that's actually in stock. We'll have to check winding. There might not be any. Now you could go with level 20. And the reason why I say that is because that's how you're going to target the rough, is really small hooks. But for now, we're going to skip the hook. And let's go look at what I think will be one of the better spots to learn about early on at Mosquito. It's somewhere right around here. I think this spot is still really good. I hope it is. In the past, at least, we've been able to catch Crucian Gibels and other stuff here. Okay, so you can use your number keys to go between your different rods. And to set that up, you want to hold down U. We're going to drag our float there. I'm sorry, our feeder rod there. Our float rod on number 2. And just in case we decide to do it, the spin rod on number 3. All right, so there's our number 1. There's our feeder. Hit 0 to set it down. Here's our float. We probably want to go back to, let's try 80 centimeters here. See if that will be okay. We'll set those 2 down. Let's turn the flashlight on. It's getting a little dark outside. All right, let's go ahead and make, actually, we have 1 skill point. My first skill point I'm going to put into making ground bait so that the ground bait we're making is not as bad a quality. And I actually want to put probably our first 3 points. As long as you have 3 points, you will consistently make above average ground bait. Eventually, you probably want all 5. But I'm going to go ahead and put our first point there. Now, let's make some ground bait. So here it is. If you click on, let me show you exactly what I'm doing here. Hit N, click on ground bait, and then go down to the recipe Crucian Gibel carp mix. By the way, with ground bait, you can make your own recipes. You can put anything you want in there when you're high enough level to use those ingredients. But for this purpose right now, we're going to make Crucian Gibel. We're going to make it, we're just going to do 1 stack, because if we get another level, the next stack will have an additional point and hopefully be a higher level. All right, so now we go back to our rig, and we want to add our ground bait just under the basket. Okay, so now we've got ground bait on there, which basically will just help attract the fish. Now, another important lesson. How do you clip your line? The reason why clipping is important is because let's say you know you want to fish 8 meters or 9 meters offshore, which is, I think, about what we want to do here. If you clip it, then it will not cast farther than the distance you've set. So we're going to hold Control and then do plus or minus to set the clip. So we're going to go to 9. We're going to just aim right out here. We'll do a nice full cast, but it'll stop it at 9 meters. Now set it down again. Look at the rod and tap Y to tighten it up. That means that the reason why you do that is if a fish gets on there, you'll hear the bell jingles. All right, let's take this. What size hook is this? 16. Let's try worm on this one since we've got bread on the feeder. You cannot clip a telestick, okay? So with your telestick, you can't clip it, so we're just going to cast it out there. That's fine. And now we've got 2 rods in the water. Now we can't do spin fishing just yet because we're using our reel on our feeder. So we actually can't put the spin fishing back together. I guess technically we could get out our bamboo rod and set it up with all the cheap stuff and even the cheap hook. We might occasionally catch a fish on that. I don't mind doing that. It's going to be hard. You know, it's like all these cheap ingredients. I mean, all these cheap components. It's not going to catch a fish very often. Actually, let's do 17 centimeters. Let's put maggots just in case there's like bleak or something here that might occasionally bite. I don't think there are, but that's a good use of the cheap setup, I think. All right. Now we wait. Now we find out if this spot is any good. Bread should catch the Crucian Gibels at least during the day. We're getting into nighttime, so we might actually switch over to some sort like worms. Do we have any silver? Probably not enough to get any baits. Bloodworms, I guess, is a bait we could afford. Okay, so how do you decide if there might be a better bait to use than what you're using? One thing you can do, other than using some of the resources that I've mentioned, is you can always look at the records, the weekly records. So go all regions, or you can select just a certain region. We're on the USA region, just depends on where you register your account. But if you go to, I mean, first of all, it's set on mosquito. So if you just want to see the largest fish ever caught on mosquito, you can see the biggest crucians have been caught on nightcrawlers, semolina, and juicy lemon 14. But that's the biggest of all time. You know, so these dates are years ago in some cases. But if you go to weekly, you can see, well, what's working right now? Unfortunately, weekly records shows you for that species across all water bodies. So not just here at Mosquito, but across all water bodies, the largest Crucian carp have been caught on mostly boilies. But you do see one here caught on worm at Mosquito. So that tells me maybe we should use worm. Our float is, was it gone? Or did I just not see it? We've got to keep a little closer eye here. I think there is a fish on. Let's check. There is not. So we'll give it a little bit more time. I heard the bell ringing earlier, but it must just have been a nibble, not an actual bite yet. Let's watch these floats a little more closely. This is a good time to tell you there is no slower time in RF4 than your first few levels. Before you have enough silver to get some basic gear going. Oh, we are getting a nibble over here. Look at that float. So let's try to time it right here. See the nibble, nibble, nibble. All right, now that's gone down. We got it. It's a roach. That's our first marker fish. I like it. Cast that out. One way to tell, that friction break's a little high. One way to tell if you have a fish on is you can hit R Normally, if you hit R, you're going to change the retrieval speed, right? If you hit R and you get that message, now the reel handle rotation speed is selected automatically, you can't choose your reel speed because you have a fish on. Is this a Gibel? Ooh, our second marker fish, and this one is a Gibel, and that's the first fish on bottom fishing. So we leveled that up. I think our feather float is gone. I'm about to snap this. Oh, we got it in. And there's level 3. So now some of the action's happening here. Now, you'll notice that that tension bar, as we were pulling that fish in, was really scary. It might have snapped the line, but that's okay. I mean, this is our bamboo rod. It's free. It costs nothing. So you can just kind of go for it, make some mistakes, learn your lessons on that one, and then as you get better gear and set it up properly, hopefully you'll have less and less problems. I do want to switch this to worms, though. It looks like worms might be the way to go, especially at night. I always feel like the meatier baits get a little bit more action at night, some of the species that are active at night, unless you have a bait that you know is hitting really good Crucian Gibels. Then you might get those, because Crucian Gibels are pretty active at night. So our goal here is to try to catch a few fish and then hope we get lucky on a cafe order, and then we'll start to maybe have some silver to do to be able to move forward. So we got another skill point. I'm going to put my second skill point in making ground bait, and then we'll probably do one more, and then we'll stop doing ground bait for a while. Alright, getting a little nibble maybe on our feeder rod. You see the lines moving a little bit. It also looks like we're getting a nibble on our float, so let's kind of look at this for a minute first. Okay. Definite fish on here. Looks like it's Crucian, I believe. The Roach really shouldn't be active. By the way, you want to keep all of these fish. Every little silver you get counts, and also at these lower level lakes, you can often get cafe orders even for fish that aren't markers. So just keep them all in the beginning till you get a sense on what's worth keeping and when you don't want to keep something. Oh, that probably, yeah, maybe not. I don't know, I couldn't tell. I guess there wasn't a fish on yet. It had like driven the float sideways, so I was thinking, but and you see what the bite rate is on one feeder here. Just kind of imagine having 3. How quickly we could, you know, catch some Crucian Gibels and get some of those cafe orders that we saw earlier. It's just a good way to jumpstart your progress. See how I'm just sort of trying to gently lift this up? If there's a fish on there, gently lifting it up will set the hook. You can also just go for it. If you think the fish is really on there, not just nibbling, just lift it. Sometimes, especially without skill points and with cheap hooks and stuff, you're going to pull that hook right out of the fish's mouth. Whatever, just reset it, go again. But you'll get the handle on it. It'll become more and more natural for you. If you do a lot of float fishing, don't worry, you'll get there. It is a big learning curve, especially with these fish that just nibble, nibble, nibble. Even I still just make tons of mistakes. You know, if you're not really focused, paying attention, that's obviously a nibble. Sometimes the nibbles and the bites are hard to distinguish, though. Feeder rod, much more clear when you've got a fish on. Well, I said the Roach shouldn't be as active now, but we are still catching them. A lot of times Roach will slow down some at night, and the Crucian Gibels will still be biting, but that might not be the case right now. This might be just such a heavy spot of Roach. I don't know. You know what else is active at Ide at night is Ide. And people have been catching Ide here. I don't know if there's a way to make it work at our level. And we probably won't necessarily try that too much this video. But if you fish in this same spot with any kind of bait that Ide might like pea porridge, really Ide will go for a lot of different things, but you may see some Ide show up. Now be warned, Ides fight pretty good, so careful on your friction brake, but it would be pretty fun. By the way, I should mention that all of the community resources that I talked about earlier, and the ones that I will try to remember to link on this video, are in English except for the VK website. That one is in Russian. Google should translate it to English for you automatically, and you can get enough information from the pictures and the translated words to still help. It is a very active site. There are a lot of players that speak Russian that play this game, as well as German. Actually, there's a lot of players all over the world that play this game, but that site is a really good resource that a lot of people use, whether or not they speak Russian or not. So just a heads up, one of those is going to be a Russian, almost like a Russian social media site that's complete. That page is completely dedicated to giving you information about hot spots to fish in RF4. Very slow bite at night right now. Wow. I'm really curious. Oh, we didn't get it. Whatever it was took off. That was such an aggressive bite. I was wondering if it might have been a bleak or something, but not sure. Immediately getting another bite, and this is on maggots. What size hook? Yeah, I just wish it was a smaller hook. We'd probably do even better here. That does look like a little bleak or something. I mean, I could totally be wrong because it is dark right now, but it'd be interesting if bleak were active in this spot. Oh, I think we're going to get to see. Now, it's a roach. It is a roach. And we have a fish on our feeder as well, so let me get that in. And I need to take care of something real quick. Just give me 1 second, and I'll be right back. All right, did I miss anything? No work calls yet, so we're still good to go a little longer. I really want to go test out a spot at winding. So it's gonna, the disadvantage of that is that potentially we miss out on cafe orders here at Mosquito. Let's just go look and see. Because if we're like one fish away from a cafe order, then yeah, we probably wait. If not, we'll just go do, maybe we should just do winding next episode. I don't know. All right, so yeah, we're not anywhere close. I mean, a second Gibel would do it, but and there's no Roach orders right now. Too bad. Now, if we go worm on everything and try to find a Chinese sleeper spot, we could do that pretty quick. But I think we'll just keep doing this for a little bit longer, and then maybe we will go check out winding, because we don't yet have the hooks for rough, and I want to see what's in stock at winding, and I also want to test a spot at winding. Yeah, I think we just missed that one. I mean, I think that was the appropriate time to check it for a bite, but we just missed it. All right, let's go take our talents to winding and just see what we can figure out there just for a few minutes. That's another roach. It's an unfortunate time to not have an order for roach. A lot of times you'll have common roach orders here, and we've just been on the roach, so we probably would have enough for an order if they happen to have it. Let's see how we're doing on silver here, though. $7 silver. So you sort them by price. You can see we're getting a little bit of silver for some of these fish. They kind of have to reach a certain size to get over the silver mark. But 7 silver is 7 silver. We're now up to 10 silver. We just want to keep saving as much as possible because we want to get more feeder rods so that, again, we can get that early boon to our ability to make silver. Okay, let's check a couple things out. First of all, let's see if any of those size 24 hooks are in fact in stock here. Yes, it is. Is that a little more expensive, or am I remembering wrong? It should be the same price here as mosquito. Huh. It's almost tempting to go ahead and buy one, even though we can't use it till level 8. Oh, I should have checked flies at mosquito. I forgot to. Flies are almost always out of stock at winding, and they probably will be at mosquito too. We should double check that real quick. The load times are so fast now, I don't mind bouncing back and forth. Let's do that real quick. You can fish for bleak without flies, but sometimes if you can find flies at a place that you go, I guess I should mention this, things will be out of stock, especially at mosquito and winding. Their stocks are not that great. You oftentimes can find some stuff in stock once you get to Old Berg, which is level 12. But and you can also find stock at Quarry, which is level 16. However, Quarry is pretty expensive. It's more expensive prices. Basically, and I know it feels like this is a long way off if you're just starting. Believe me, it's really not a long way off in the big scheme of things. All of your stock issues will be solved when you go to Volkov. Volkov's a big city. They get lots of stock there. They rarely run out. So that's kind of what you're looking forward to. Let's just check on those flies. Okay, so a little cheaper, but still 98 silver. We're a long way away from being able to afford that. So on those hooks, did I just see the price wrong? Oh, yeah. So I saw the price wrong because that doesn't make sense. Is the smallest size? Maybe if it was in stock, it would also be the same price. Mosquito and winding should be the same prices. I think I'm correct on that. Okay, in terms of bleak, sometimes they will go for bloodworms. So I'm going to grab us. Bloodworms are very cheap. Casters are a little more expensive, so we'll just try the bloodworms to see if that works. or the maggots. Let's go back to Winding and let's try that spot. There's a place at Winding where you basically can do the same type of fishing we were just doing. In other words, for Crucian Gibels, Roach, that kind of stuff. But you can also float fish for bleak. Oh, wait a minute. We don't have a small enough hook to do this. Okay. Yeah, I should have thought of this before. We probably should have waited till we were a little higher level and had the right hook size. We might still be able to get it to work. And I think we can get a 20 hook, right? For really cheap. 20 right here for 3 silver. We're just going to have to do it. Is that the best deal for us right now? 18's not quite small enough. 20 is going to be better than 18. So we're going to do it. We're going to switch this to 20. Very cheap hook in the big scheme of things. We'll try maggot and then we'll try bloodworm. All right, let's go try this out. Okay, we don't have a map. I need to buy the maps of both places. I hate to spend the silver, but I think we're going to. And we should make enough silver here to be able to afford the map at Mosquito. It is really worthwhile for you to have the maps of the places. 5 silver, and I know it's crazy. Feels like it's so much silver for this level. But now when I hit M, I can actually see where we're going. This is a river. It's got a current. It's better for spin fishing than Mosquito. So if you're wanting to do spin fishing from an early level, this is going to be your friend. But it also has this little pond area that is actually very similar to fishing at Mosquito. And typically has some really active bleak fishing. So that's what we're going for. So we ran across the bridge. Now we're going to cut over here till we can get to the pond. New Winding is very nice. I like all the new docks and stuff where you can lean out over the fish a little bit. And they also widened it in spaces some. Added some more debris and stuff in the water to fish around. It's pretty cool. Okay. So basically, straight out there is going to be where we want to be for the bleak. I think for the other stuff, we want to be just kind of in here. I don't know that it really matters. We'll just throw it straight out for now. If it seems like it's a really slow bite rate, we'll move it. I've got worms on there. We may want to switch that to bread, but for now, let's just see how this goes. So if I look at the map, I can see that facing this direction, I'm casting out over that 2-meter hole. But we want to use maggots, and we want to use the most shallow depth possible for bleak. So we're going to do that. Cast it about 70–80%. Just get it out of there a little bit. Once you have some skill points and can cast farther, you'll want to cast it even further. On this one, let's try bloodworms. Again, just as shallow as possible. It's going to be especially hard to get this one any distance at all, but we will try. Now let's see if we're getting any bites at all. Okay, we are getting a fish on worm. Pretty quick bite. Now we're going to switch it to bread, see if it also does well on bread. Yeah, it's a nice gibel. I like it. Switch it to bread. I think bread should work just as good here, especially during the day. Tighten it up, see what that does. Okay. See what we got here. We're hoping for a bleak. And we got a bleak. So for a lot of people, they fish bleak because of bleak are one of the fish you can turn into bait fish. They're really good for a fish called the bellow. The nickname is a bellow at Octuba especially. But at a low level, bleak can actually be pretty decent silver, pretty decent XP. So before you have your second or third feeder rod, I think this is a viable option to just come out here at Winding and fish for bleak a little bit. There's a little roach as well. Okay, let's switch this to bloodworms. I'm wondering if bloodworms isn't biting on the other one because of the hook size we're using. So I want to see if the bleak go for the bloodworm as well. Yeah, this is what we want to do. We just want to stand here, catch Gibel, Crucians, Roach, whatever, on our feeder, and hope that we're getting some fish on our float as well. But what you'll see, if we can get another bleak, that's a bite. What you'll see is it does not nibble like Crucian, Gibels, and Roach does. So if it's a pretty quick bite, it's going to be easier to catch, and that'll be a good sign that you're on the bleak, or you might catch dace like we did at that first spot when we were first at winding. I think that was a roach again, the way that was nibbling. We'll try bloodworms one more time before we go back to maggots. I think maggots might be the answer. If you can't find flies, maggots might be the answer. Bloodworms might just be attracting the roach too quickly. We'll switch off bloodworms on that third rod for sure. It's been out there so long with no bites, or nothing significant at least. But remember, that third rod also doesn't have a small enough hook on it. Yeah, that's a roach. That's not a bleak. It would. I don't think it'd be doing that if it was a bleak. So frustrating, isn't it? Did we catch something on bread? Yeah, that Gibel was on bread. So is the bread slower than the worm was, though? Maybe? Man, I am switching this back to maggot. Let's just see if we can do a little more consistent with maggots here. And then I think we very likely want to put worm on the third float. Sorry, our second float, our third rod. Alright, let's try worms over here too. Maybe worms will be a little faster bite rate. We want volume fishing right now. We want to find what's giving us the best bite rate. Come on, bleak. Don't do us like this. If you put a 24 hook on with flies, potentially maggots, but certainly with flies, this spot will become like amazing for bleak. It actually would probably be a little overpowered for such a low-level player to be able to use a 24 hook and flies right now, but because of stock, we can't. I think there might be a little fish on here. So that was a quick bite rate on worms. See the tension bar at the bottom? That is showing how much strength the fish is pulling against our line and how close we are to breaking. If it goes into the red, you want to lower your friction brake and try to tire the fish out before pulling it in. Sometimes fish will be so big that you basically have to fight them by allowing them to take some line and get worn out before you can then try to reel them in. It is possible to hook into fish at you know, on really small gear that, especially for a new player, it's just going to be impossible to get in, but that's okay. You learn from those experiences. Sometimes changing hook size or bait can keep you from getting into those situations too much. So we're not doing anything on that third rod. It looks like we're catching another roach here on the second rod. So I think what we want to do here is change the depth. We're just sort of admitting, hey, we're not catching bleak on this rod at all. Oh shoot, we missed a bite there, didn't we? We're not catching bleak at all over here, so let's just go for whatever we can find. It may be too big to pull in on the bamboo rod, but we're not going to lose anything. It's free hook, free rod, so we'll just go for it. Crappy line. The whole thing is... Oof. You do not want to see common carp. Thankfully, that was a very small common carp. Okay. Let's see. There's a roach that was nibbling, wasn't it? Okay, so it looks like with this size hook and maggots, we're still not finding the bleak, at least not with regularity. It's very unfortunate. But, you know, we're catching Crucian, Gibel, Roach at about the same percentage, I would think, catch rate we would be at Mosquito, maybe even better right now. So it's probably worth trying, you know, before you have that second or third feeder. So we leveled up on a non-marker eyed, and that's the fish I was talking about, trying to target at Mosquito possibly. That was clearly just a nibble. I should have just left it alone. We have 2 markers. The bad news is we are coming out of the, you know, sort of the early morning when the sun is up, first thing in the morning. A lot of times that's the best time of fishing for the day. As it gets hotter later in the day, things could slow down a little bit. Whoa, 3.1 line. It's a little bit of thick line to go for bleak, but I think it's a hook size issue mostly. Marker eyed. That gave us a lot of XP, didn't it? And our first Chinese sleeper. Something is nibbling on this, isn't it? On our feeder. If you pick it up, you potentially mess up the nibble, so you really want to wait till you are pretty certain there's a fish on. A lot of times you'll see the line moving when the fish is actually hooked, going left to right or swimming away from you. That is just a nibble. Don't get fooled by the straight down jerk like that. Common roach, most likely, nibbling this long. Whoa. Okay, hold on. Did I miss it? Oh, we got it. It might be thick. Oof, is it another eyed? What are we doing with our life right now? Holy cow. telling you, these eyed are scary. This is not a bleak spot for me at the moment. You know what? Let's try bloodworms again. Cast it way out there. Come on, bleak. Show me a bleak. It's just tough. 20 size hook is just too big for bleak. So this game is free to play. If you want to spend a little money, support the devs, one thing you can do is enact premium. Premium allows you to level faster. It does not give you more silver per fish like some games do, but it does allow you to level faster. You will also more often level up your skills as you catch fish or harvest baits or whatever. It allows you to send stuff between players. So let's say somebody said, hey, I know you can't get flies because they're out of stock, but I've got a bunch. I'll send you 50 flies if you want to send me 50 worms or whatever. Well, you can't do that if you don't have premium. You can't send it to somebody. Premium does help, but it's really optional, especially at low levels. I would say if you're wanting to get premium, but you want to wait for the right time, I would wait till you're at least level 20 or so. You'll start to feel it then. You'll notice you're not getting skill ups on your points on your skill ups as often and that kind of stuff. I'm going to go back to bread for a bit. So I would really wait on premium unless you just want to support, you know, put a little money towards the game from the beginning, which I get. It's weird when you're playing a free to play game a lot and you're like, man, I kind of want to support the development of the game. What do we try here? Bloodworms maybe? See, we've got it at a lower depth. I don't know if that will catch fish more often or not. We've got bloodworms on that one really shallow. It doesn't look like the bleak are going to go for it though. I feel like we'd have a bite already by now if they were. We'll give it a little bit longer and then we'll switch it back to maggots, I guess. The other bait you want to use, but we just can't make it yet, is pearl barley. Pearl barley will catch bleak as well. I would say flies, and then, yes, we got a bleak. Flies, and then pearl barley. Sometimes horse flies will work, and then things like maggots or bloodworms are your other option. I don't know if this feather float's so hard to see, but I'm afraid this is going to get snapped off, so I don't want to use my other reel float on it. Yeah, there might be a fish on our feeder right now. It's close at least. Well, we've caught a couple bleak. Unfortunately, neither one of them has been markers. I wanted to see what the XP would be like on an actual marker bleak, if we can get lucky enough to catch one. If you're ever in this situation where your float and your feeder is going down, get your float first. The nice thing about feeders, it's an auto hooking mechanic, and so that fish will wait for you for quite a while. In most cases, you don't have to like rush to get to the fish that's on the feeder. Alright, there's a fish on there. Ooh, a white bream. Caught us a white bream. Another fish that is can be turned into bait fish. So the 4 bars at the bottom left-hand part of the screen. Your top bar is your energy. If you're in a long fight with a fish, you'll start to lose energy. And that's where you'll drink coffee or tea or something to get your energy back. The second bar is your hunger bar. So you can eat food that you have in your inventory, or you can get the free food once a day here at Winding or Mosquito. The third bar is your health. Not a lot has been implemented into the game having to do with health yet, other than if you drink lots of alcohol, especially cheap alcohol, your health will go down. And then you can take medicine or eat garlic, I think, to sort of slowly increase your health. And the fourth bar is your comfort level. If your comfort level is low, which ours is right now, it becomes harder and harder to gain back energy. And so if your comfort's low, you want to drink things like tea or mulled wine to get your comfort back up, which we haven't started making tea yet as part of our cooking, so we don't have any. But now that's cool. A marker Chinese sleeper. So one reason that maybe bloodworms is neat to use here is because it looks like our bycatch is now Chinese sleepers and roach, I think, on bloodworm. And while we're waiting on the bleak, instead of the bycatch being eyed, which the eyed was giving us a lot of experience, but if we hit a decent size eyed, it's going to absolutely wreck our little float rod. So bread still seems to be doing fine during the day here. It's very cheap bait that we need to make lots of anyway, so we'll keep using bread for now. So we're starting to get some fish. We're doing a little better here than we did at Mosquito, getting a few markers. I really want to have at least a second feeder rod going to feel like we can benefit fully from that spot on Mosquito, but you just do what you got to do until you can afford it. We are about to hit level 5. Possibly on this fish. Depends on what it is. Not quite. Oh, we've got a fish on. Ah, we missed it. See if it still nibbles some more. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and test it. Yeah. And I think it's a bleak. So we're getting almost 100 XP even on these non-marker bleak. Which if you noticed, compared to that non-marker Gibel we just caught, that is way more experience. But just to be clear, when you're at a low level, what you need is not experience. What you need is silver. Because the thing that's limiting us the most right now is silver to purchase multiple feeder rods and hooks and baits and all that to really get going. There's all kinds of stuff we need to buy. We need to buy a shovel so we can start digging. We need to buy a teapot so we can start cooking. Just lots of stuff. I really hope we will get lucky on a cafe order. That will help so much. We do need to wrap this up. These first episodes are always long. It's really hard to get a lot accomplished in less than an hour. So a lot of times these leveling guide episodes will be an hour or so. But the first one especially is just tough to not... Okay, don't break us off. Perch on bloodworm, that's interesting. We've got something nibbling on our float over there. Couldn't tell if we needed to grab it real quick or not. I think we're okay, at least for now. We hope it's a bleak or a sleeper, but there is no telling. Still not a marker. Man, we just cannot hit a marker bleak, can we? I hope I remember when we go back to check the cafe to check to see if horse flies are in stock. Because that's another bait that maybe next time we can check out here just to see if bleak bite a little more commonly or actively on the horsefly. Always check the weeklies. Pearl barley, fly, maggot, fly for bleak. And pearl barley is the first thing you can make after you've made a ton of bread, done a ton of digging. It takes a little while to unlock pearl barley, but it is good when you do unlock it. There's a lot of good uses at low levels for pearl barley. Yeah, we need to wrap this up. See if we get one more fish maybe on this float. What size hook are we using? 16? You could go up to 14. Maybe see if that increases the amount of markers we have. It might not, but... A lot of times if I'm fishing for Crucian gibels, in an ideal world, I kind of want to use something around size 12. I want to catch a high percentage of fish that are above that marker range and not a lot of small ones. But I would say when you're first starting out, especially since there's cafe orders that reward you for having smaller ones, it's okay to just volume fish. Catch as many as you can. Remember, every time you catch a fish, there's a chance you're going to level up your bottom fishing, which the higher percentage you have in bottom fishing, the better fish quality of stuff you can catch. It also just unlocks things. Like when we get to 25%, we can start using paternoster rig. Or when we get to 35%, we can start using boilie rigs, classic hair rigs. So every time you catch a fish, you're leveling that up a little bit. So it's really important. I did not mean to pick that up. That was actually, I was trying to hit Q and I somehow hit E. So I might have messed up that nibble. You could see there was pressure on it, and that's what size the fish was going to be. But the game hadn't finalized, like, hooking the fish on, so looks like we kind of messed it up. I'm going to give it another minute here, so we might as well put this in, even just briefly. Yeah, we messed up that nibble completely. Another interesting sort of low-level strategy can be, although sometimes they're hard to get in stock or they're a little pricey. Once you start digging up redworms especially, though, a lot of times redworms anywhere on the main river will catch a wide variety of different fish, day and night. So redworm can be a good bait here at winding. I don't know that I would necessarily use them in this part, in the pond. You could, but especially I feel like on the main river, there's just so many different fish, different species that will be attracted to redworm. One thing I thought about doing once we have this leveling guide, this leveling series sort of established, is I've thought about I can set it up where I'm fishing on my main computer on this account, and then I could have my main account fishing on my streaming computer, my secondary computer. And basically fishing at the same spot with my low-level account as my main account, just kind of showing the difference of how a spot will produce based on the stuff you have access to at a low level with low percentage points versus how it will do on a high-level account. So if we get to an interesting spot, and it seems like that might be appropriate to do, that's something I've thought about trying for this leveling guide. I can't believe how long we've waited for this last fish. Ugh, it about faked me out. So this is a roach, not a bleak, unfortunately. Probably not a sleeper either. The other thing that might be interesting to do is to try peas. You can buy peas very cheaply out of the bait store. Peas in that spot on mosquito, they have an off chance of catching eyed, and I do think there's eyed in that spot right now. But they also do really well at catching nice sized roach. So if there are good roach in that spot at mosquito, we could try peas there also. But again, I really would love to get, you know, and we need like 50 silver, but I'd love to get a second feeder set up for us to start really testing spots like that. But you just got to grind it out till you have enough silver to set up your second and third feeder run. The other thing we could do for fun is just maybe do a little spin fishing here at Winding. Make a little bit of silver that way, if we could get on some fish. Okay, we do have 2 sleepers, so this is one thing you want to check. 5.59 silver for that sleeper order. Well, how much are the sleepers worth if we just sell them like this? 2.24. So the order is better. The orders are almost always better, but this order actually allows for non-marker size, so I wasn't sure. We would need 3 more white bream. Obviously, we're not doing that. We need 1 more bleak, which is very frustrating. It's 20 silver. I might hold on to those bleak, and we might start out the next series trying to get that last bleak. Alright, so let's sell everything except for the bleak. See how they're worth nothing? Well, if we get 1 more small one, all of a sudden we can turn that into 20 silver. That is just a big deal. Okay, so let's get our free food. What was I going to check here? Horseflies. So there's the peas. 2.8 silver for 30. Very cheap bait. Horseflies. Nope. Very expensive because you can't buy the top level. They're out of stock. Okay, we're going to travel to Cottage Pond. Remember, when you're early on, you can go get, once every 24 hours, you can either get a free float setup or a free spinning setup. Now, the spinning setup is total garbage, but in fact, I'll go ahead and show you that. I was going to get the float tackle because the float tackle comes with worms, free worms, but we'll get the spinning tackle so you can see that. It gives you an old spinning rod. This reel is actually decent, except that it's in such bad shape, such bad repair. It also comes with an old spinner lure here. But if you click on this cogwheel, you can see the damage. I mean, you normally you wouldn't let these things get this low before repairing them. But it works, you know? It works. It's interesting. We do have perch here. It is possible to catch perch here. It's pretty much the only thing we would probably catch. But let's cast this one time here at the cottage pond. You hear that reel? It's clicking because of how damaged it is. We'll get speed up and then stop speed up. But it's worth remembering you can get these. I mean, these reels will work, at least for a little bit. You could always break it. You never know. But it's free, you know. So, I mean, you can put that on a feeder rod. It actually has a lot of strength considering it's free. It's just in such bad shape, you're not going to get much strength out of it. Okay, so we'll go back to winding because I think we're going to start off with trying to finish that bleak order for the next episode. All right, this has been episode 1. Please feel free to leave any comments, questions you have. If I do see questions, next time I'm recording an episode, you know, I might do this next episode pretty quick, so you won't have time to do questions yet. But, you know, maybe episode 3, if it's later on, then I will try to go through questions even while we're playing and answer them as I can. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for the support. If you are new to RF4, I hope you enjoy your experience. Let us know if there's any questions you have. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Later on.